Pay $25,000 or we'll destroy it. That's what I heard, clear as day, from the sheriff standing on my porch at 7 a.m. And, honest to God, it felt like my entire world was folding in on itself. You ever have one of those moments where your brain's screaming, "This can't be happening," but your gut knows? Oh, it's real? 3 years of sweat and every spare dollar, every holiday and weekend, poured into bringing this creaky old Victorian mansion back from the dead, just for some county cop to say they're going to bulldoze it in a week. 7 days. I don't care who you are. You hear that before coffee and your knees start to wobble. I'd bought the place when there wasn't even a whiff of an HOA around. Now suddenly, I'm enemy number one, standing in my pajamas, holding a demolition notice with the county letterhead crooked and a seal that looked like someone's kid drew it in art class. Sheriff Johnson, if that was his real name, kept talking like a practiced actor, saying, "Sir, this is official business. Pay up or it's all coming down." I wanted to laugh, but my hands just shook. See, after 30 years of dealing with construction permits, city hall runarounds, and every form of red tape you can imagine, you develop a nose for scams. That envelope didn't smell right. And when Johnson said, "HOA President Rebecca Adams will explain the details tomorrow," but wouldn't even flash me a badge number, something inside me snapped to full alert. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a sec. The truth is, this place, this mansion, it wasn't just another fixer-upper. It was the project I'd been waiting for my whole life. I hunted down original fixtures, spent months patching the old hardwood, restored the front windows with hand-rolled glass. Heck, I even hunted for the exact Victorian doorbell chime from an estate sale out in Tulsa. Every detail had a story, and now, apparently, I was living in a crime scene. Or so the authorities wanted me to believe. But you know what really put the fear in me? When I glanced outside, and there were guys in matching jumpsuits, snapping photos and taking measurements like demolition was already on the schedule. It felt predatory. They talked about environmental violations and lead paint hazards, which, honestly, was almost funny. I'd pulled every permit, passed every inspection, used only lead-safe methods. I'd gone above and beyond because that's what you do with a piece of living history. Sheriff Johnson didn't care, and neither did the HOA, apparently. But as I'm standing there, heart pounding, watching these guys circle my house, I start thinking about all the little oddities over the last 6 months. Like, why has someone been dropping envelopes full of cash at my place, paying top dollar for me to restore the old Steinway grand piano in the basement? No name, just perfect instructions, like they knew every inch of this house's history. It felt normal until now. The more I tried to piece things together, the weirder it got. I'd let my property records pile up in the home office, barely glanced at them since closing, too busy scraping and sanding and laying tile. But now I started to wonder, what exactly did I own? How many buildings? Who else might have their sights set on my address? Because as the day wore on, it was clear this wasn't just a case of mistaken identity or overzealous code enforcement. This was orchestrated. And the neighbors? That stung the most. Suddenly, people I'd known for years, people who'd watched the place go from eyesore to landmark, were posting online about safety concerns and community risk, all sparked by an anonymous inspector's complaint. Every time the van rolled by for another round of photos, I felt the circle tightening. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I drove straight to City Hall, gripping that fake-looking notice so hard my knuckles turned white. You ever stand in line at the records office, heart pounding, praying you're wrong? The clerk barely glanced at my paperwork before saying, "Sir, there's no such HOA registered. No authority, no demolition order, and by law, you get 30 days notice, not 7. Someone's messing with you." Relief and fury hit me all at once. I drove home, determined to get to the bottom of this. And wouldn't you know it, there's another environmental technician at my gate, this time dropping off a flyer warning of historic paint hazards and trying to schedule a walkthrough. Rebecca herself called, practically purring through the phone, offering to help me get ahead of enforcement. The whole thing reeked of a long con. And it clicked. This was about forcing me to sell, to make my life so miserable I'd beg for an out. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Remember those cash envelopes for the piano restoration? That day, another one showed up. Only this time, the note inside read, "Environmental laws are complicated. Legal help enclosed. Continue the piano work. And sure enough cash to hire an attorney. Somebody was watching out for me. By then, I was seeing shadows everywhere. My neighbor Samuel, usually just a friendly old-timer pruning his roses, seemed awfully attentive to the comings and goings on my lawn. So I crossed the street, more than a little suspicious, and asked him straight up, "Why are you tracking my visitors, Samuel?" Turns out, he wasn't part of the scam. He'd been keeping notes, documenting everything, and he had a stack of evidence on Rebecca's little operation that would make a prosecutor drool. Months of her driving past, snapping pictures, offering cash to neighbors for safety reports. The scope was bigger than I'd guessed. She'd been casing the neighborhood for months, looking for a target. And then my son, Danny, came home from college, a legal aid intern, tech whiz, and exactly the backup I needed. He tore into those fake notices with a vengeance. "Dad, these barcodes don't check out. The signatures don't match county records, and the so-called sheriff isn't even in the state database." His digging revealed it all. Fake credentials, a shell company for environmental buyers, and a history of Rebecca targeting restored homes for forced sales. So we went full detective mode. Samuel's neighborhood watch cam footage showed Rebecca rehearsing neighbors on what to say, handing out cash, and even coaching her cousin, the so-called Sheriff Johnson, on how to play the tough guy. I had video, timelines, and Danny's legal research. The next day, Samuel brought over a laptop packed with clear-as-day surveillance. Rebecca, recruiting, scheming, planning her moves weeks before the so-called emergency. It was all smoke and mirrors, a total sham, top to bottom. What happened next? Classic small-town showdown. Rebecca showed up, clipboard in hand, tried to threaten our entire neighborhood in my living room, right as we were all watching the damning footage. She lost it, ranted about federal intervention, and when she stormed outside, she literally tripped and fell into the red tent she'd rented to quarantine my house. Caught on every neighbor's phone, streaming live. Then, as she's untangling herself, a tow truck rolls up and repos her BMW for non-payment. Poetic justice, you know what I mean? But it got even better. The next day, the real cops arrived, arrested her cousin for impersonating law enforcement, and began an official investigation. Danny's database skills uncovered one last irony. Tucked away in my forgotten paperwork, I owned the very strip mall Rebecca's realty company was renting. She'd been plotting to steal my home, all while owing me rent. The final act? Court. All the pieces came together. The anonymous piano client revealed himself as Judge Harrison, a retired county judge and the very guy who'd been helping build a federal case against Rebecca from the start, using our piano restoration as cover to pass information and legal funds. It was wild. Rebecca confessed to everything on camera. The feds moved in, her license was stripped, and the real estate board made it clear she'd never sell so much as a birdhouse again. My neighbors and I threw the best block party this town's ever seen. Turned that big red tent into ribbons for everyone to sign, played a victory concert on the restored piano, and kicked off what we now call Preservation Day. The kids still draw houses on the old tent fabric, and the mansion stands prouder than ever. Here's the thing. There are always going to be people like Rebecca, hungry to snatch what you've built with your own hands. But if you stand your ground, keep your records, and lean on your community, you can win. Sometimes, the people who seem like background characters, old judges, college kids, even nosy neighbors, are the ones who'll pull you through. So, if you've ever had someone try to take what matters most to you, let this be your sign. Fight back. Share your story, watch for the signs, and don't let intimidation steal your dreams. And hey, comment below. Where do you stand on justice, property rights, or just plain old neighborly loyalty? Because if you've made it this far, you know, sometimes the best revenge is seeing your home stand tall while the scammer's world goes up in smoke.